Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media. Always a great day when we have our friends in from the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank and joined by our phenomenal partners, Mission Fed Credit Union. Julie Moore, Director of Corporate Partnerships and Sponsorships, is in the house. How you doing, Julie?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having us here.
Good to see you again. And my longtime friend and colleague, Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed. Should we tell them how long we've known each other?
Well,
were you an infant when I first met you?
I'd like to say I was, but I think we were at the beginning, right? Like when you started this in 2007, I think that's how far we go back.
It does. Were you a Fleischman at the time?
I was.
Oh my goodness. And back in the co-host saddle with me is Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Had a little bit of a hiatus. How was your trip, by the way?
It was amazing. It was long. It was a lot. It was a great trip.
Was it fruitful?
It was fruitful, yes. I taught 10 workshops in 10 days and then did a directing gig for 4 days. And I'm too old to do those things in tandem. So that's what I learned.
Things, my goodness.
But it was fun. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Very, very good. And so Kristen has been over 2 years now co-hosting with me, and she certainly raises the show up to a different level. And
you said it, so that's fine.
You made me say this. Remember, every
true,
time
I do.
Here are the notes right here. Make sure you say this.
You don't have to discuss our arrangement.
Okay, yes, that's right, exactly. You want to start us off?
Sure, I would love to. So just briefly, I would love to learn both of your organization's missions. So why don't we start with Mission Fed?
We can do that. I think in a nutshell, and Mission Fed is literally here to improve and enhance the lives of San Diegans. And that's on kind of that broad, level. And what that means, obviously we're a financial institution, right? So, but that's a huge piece of overall well-being for us in San Diego, for the greater community where we live, work, and play. And that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Yeah. And having been here almost 2 years on and off, I can attest, you do so much in the community. You do so much education-wise. So you really do practice what you preach. So absolutely. And then what about the food bank? What is the mission of your organization?
Yeah, we are here to provide nutritious, balanced food, balanced diets to San Diegans who are facing food insecurity. We also educate the public about food insecurity throughout San Diego County. And we also advocate for the hungry, for people that are facing hunger challenges. So we'd like to do all three of those in our pillars. So this podcast is a great way to educate the public about the needs out there throughout San Diego County and for those people who are facing hunger issues.
Yeah, and I don't think, Julie, people really get the scope of it in San Diego County. Mm-hmm. How many people are facing food insecurity every day?
Believe it or not, there's over 800,000 people in San Diego facing food insecurity. That comes from our partnership with the Hunger Coalition, who analyzes, income data and really takes a look at what incomes people are making. And if they are able to provide 3 balanced meals a day and pay for their bills and their living expenses, et cetera. So it comes out to about 800,000 people a month. At the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank, we serve about 400,000 people on average per month throughout all of San Diego County.
Yeah, when you think about those numbers, Kristen, it is quite stunning because, you don't know which person you're staring at down the street that's walking, because the person who has food insecurity looks a lot different than the one that had food insecurity maybe 10 years ago, even 15 years ago as well. So I think that's absolutely, so critical in that aspect of it. And so is this a special month that we're coming into? Is it like Food Awareness Month?
not to lead you, but is it that? Is it that right now?
September is San Diego's Hunger Awareness Month.
Thank you.
We partner again with the Hunger Coalition at the food bank, and the entire month of September is to help us bring awareness to, again, like we just talked about, the number of people that are facing food insecurity in San Diego. So the partnership with Mission Fed is one of the many things we have going on this month, but Mission Fed is here to help us kick off and raise awareness and raise funds, much needed funds, for our Food for Kids backpack program, which helps feed students over the weekends when they're not in school. So we're super excited to work with them again. I think we're on at least year 10, if not even more than that. And Mission Fed and their members have really stepped up to, again, raise money and help us fund the Food for Kids backpack program and keep it growing.
And to the point, Kristen's making, the beauty of Mission Fed, they're the exact opposite of checkbook philanthropy. Yes, they give money. It's important, turns on lights, buys backpacks and all that business. But when you get the army of Mission Fed folks behind you, they're going to be there shoulder to shoulder, whether it's in the headquarters here in Scripps Ranch or throughout their branches. And, talk about that, Courtney. You've been involved with a lot of nonprofits and for-profits and all that business. But Mission Fed, it's everybody's all in.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I came here, because I was on the other side of it. I was in nonprofit world and got to work with the amazing people at Mission Fed before I came here. And they walk the walk, talk the talk the walk, like all the things, right? So, and so it's really amazing to go into, these community partnerships, and especially one with the food bank. This one is truly, and I just heard Doug Wright, our CEO, say this yesterday on an internal team prep call, because we have to have that with all of our 34 branches and all of our branch managers and assistant branch managers who help us, kind of make this happen throughout our network, throughout the county, throughout the month of this important fundraising effort. But Doug said that it's his favorite campaign that we do every year. And because you really cannot not have your heartstrings tugged at when you think of children, elementary school children, and almost 3,800 of them throughout the county, and really more because we want to keep serving more, right? Who, when there are no school meals available during the week, those free lunches and those free breakfasts that we get for our elementary school kids, all school age kids, when they go home over the weekend, if they have, say, a lunch on Friday at school, they may not eat again until Monday morning breakfast back at school. And that is just heartbreaking. And all of us feel like that. We know in our team meetings that we do, we share an amazing video that the food bank did about this program, and really talking to some brave families who are really interested, and brave kiddos who were interested in telling their story about what it feels like to be hungry and how you can't think, you can't study, you can't, function, right? We're humans. We all need that as basic human needs. But to know that something like this program helps get that backpack of food that in a lot of cases isn't just feeding the child for the weekend, but also feeding the family for the weekend, it's pretty incredible.
Well, anybody who knows whether they're food insecure or not when they're hungry, knows that feeling, and they can usually get that taken care of by going to the refrigerator. Well, these folks can't because there's nothing in that refrigerator. We're chatting with Courtney Pendleton. She is the Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union, joined by her colleague at the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank, Julie Moore, Director of Corporate Partnerships and Sponsorships. I'm Drew Schlosberg, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast. We're in our 19th year, brought to you by the very, very cool folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of working to do great things in San Diego County, where there's food insecurity, where we're talking about now, financial literacy, the arts, homeless, you name it, joined by my very, very cool colleague and co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers Inc. Kristen?
Yeah, I'm just marveling at the scope of this project. I'm reading here, how it's 96 elementary schools and 19 school districts. I mean, that's a huge reach. And I'm wondering too, if someone walks into a branch, how much do they need to donate and how far will that donation take them?
Absolutely. So we ask for $8. $8 only feeds a kiddo and really their family for the weekend. I will tell you though, time and time again, there are folks who will give $1, and that is just as important as those who will give 100 or more. But our members throughout San Diego County, our staff throughout San Diego County are all so incredibly generous, the community at large, because anybody can donate anytime online too, to this campaign. But everybody is so generous and gives what they can, but often more than that $8. And we see that time and time again. It's incredible to see. I love telling this story. We had someone contact even our contact center, which we have an amazing, kind of call center of folks who are very helpful. And they, of course, talk about this program all throughout the month when they're doing transactions with folks on the phone. And there was, after a call that someone had towards the end of the call, our call center manager is talking to them and tells them about the program. And there's just kind of this long pause and silence on the other end. And she's like, hello, are you still there? And he just was like, wow, I have never heard about this kind of program before. And I would have benefited from this program when I was a child. And I'd like to give $200. I mean, what an incredible impact and story. So.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Julie.
No, I was just going to say that one of the things I really like about this partnership is the true commitment and support from all of the Mission Fed members. Like those types of stories. On our side, we get asked from people who have Mission Fed accounts, hey, when's the fundraiser starting? Because that's when I want to give to you is during the time frame that Mission Fed's doing this campaign. So now we've got it down. It's every September. And so we do have Mission Fed members that wait until September to give to us. So it's nice to really get that true compassion.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, Courtney. We say this quite a bit on the show. We've been doing it for 19 years. There's no such thing as too small a donation.
Yep.
And there's no such thing as too small a time to donate your time. We just want to get you engaged. Maybe next month it's $2 or whatever, or 1 hour. And there's so much to be done. The thing about, food insecurity, I'll tell you folks this, you're the experts on it at the food bank. It doesn't know what time of year. It doesn't know, people go, well, the giving season is Thanksgiving till, January 3rd. That's fine. Beautiful. We'll take anything you can get. But on March 15th, that hasn't changed. Or July 2nd, to your point, over the weekend, when there's no school food, same thing in the summer. There's some challenges on that as well, I imagine. So let me ask you this. What can our listeners do? Buy backpacks, get an account with Mission Fed so now they can contribute all these things. What can they do?
Yeah, there's lots of ways that anyone can support the food bank. Of course, with those financial donations, very easy to participate in the Mission Fed program or donate online. Our website is sandiegofoodbank.org. And to find the Mission Fed information, it's sandiegofoodbank.org/Mission Fed. Also, volunteer. You had mentioned, the volunteer hours. We just wrapped up our fiscal year. And our volunteers provide over 107,000 hours per year. So we have lots of opportunities in our Vista warehouse, in our Miramar warehouse, in our Client Choice Pantry, and out in the field actually distributing food to those neighbors that need it. So lots of volunteer opportunities. We also have a space on our website for advocacy. So we definitely want to get people's voice and have their voices be heard by our elected officials. So you can also do some advocacy by writing letters and making phone calls to elected officials at a time, during budget time and when other things are coming up in the legislation.
We come back from break. I want to bring that, topic up. Certainly we're in a pretty interesting world these days. Well, we have a lot of educators on our show, and obviously there's been some challenges at the federal level with funding and all that, and maybe it's in other areas in health too. Don't know if that impacts national food banks at all. So to your point, is that work with your local, politicians, and then also want to think about when we come back from a break. Can businesses get involved? Can they do their own food drive, so to speak? And maybe that's at a different time of year. I'm sure you wouldn't turn that down anywhere. And the last thing to think about, Julie, and we bring this up all the time, it's important to make sure that the food is nutritious. We know we are in a obesity crisis in this country. We're no different in San Diego. So let's think about those three things when we return with Julie Moore, Director of Corporate Partnerships and Sponsorships for the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank, joined by Courtney Pendleton. She is the Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, 19 years and counting. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades of doing great things for folks living in San Diego County, and we will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are back chatting with our friends from the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank and our partners in Mission Fed Credit Union, talking about the kids' backpack program, food insecurity, and what we can do to really support these huge 800,000 a month folks go with food insecurity. Joined by my colleague, Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers Inc. Kristen, that is absolutely a stunning number.
It is, yeah. It's crazy. I'm wondering if we can return back to something that you said about the nutritious food.
Yes.
And see how that rolls into your organization's mission. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Definitely. Very good question. We distribute about 53 million pounds of food every year. And about 47% of that is fresh produce.
Okay.
Because we do want to provide choice and balanced meals. So we're able to do that with the funds and the support that we get from our donors and different partners who are donating food to us and our food drives, et cetera. So the fresh produce is really, it's unique because we have the ability to have refrigeration, and we have refrigerated trucks, and we're able to get it out right away and work with our local agency partners that also are distributing the food, and lots of things like potatoes, onions, fruits, mangoes, avocados, and it's really great to see our neighbors in need who need the food have a brighter face because they see there's some produce here that I can cook something more balanced for my family in need. So. It's very important, and our goal is to get to about 50% of fresh produce out of that 53 million pounds of food that we distribute every year.
And what does that look like? Is that enlisting supermarkets, farmers, individual growers? How do you?
Definitely all of the above.
Okay.
We source food from. We purchase fresh fruits and vegetables from local farmers and from the grocery stores. Because we are a food bank, we get different pricing. It's not like we just go to the grocery store and buy a bushel of apples. So it's all those partners that come in. And we do have a food procurement team who works on, finding the best deals. And it really does focus on what's in season too, which is great.
Yeah.
Because what's in season is going to be just healthier and more ready to be eaten at that time.
Yeah.
Now, do you work, Kristen, I've interviewed a lot of folks that have local markets, local farms, and all that business over the last couple of years. Do you work with groups like that? Do they contribute their food to you?
So there's different ways.
Yeah.
Again, we would purchase it, and sometimes they donate it. Sometimes it's food that doesn't make it to the grocery shelves for some reason, or sometimes it's food that is just extra, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
that the farmers just weren't able to distribute themselves, and so then they'll donate it to us as well. So lots of local produce that comes in that way.
I can't remember the name of the group, and Kristen, you may have been gone on your trip, but came in, and you will know who it is, Julie, and possibly you too, Courtney, that work with picking up food that normally would have been thrown away, okay? And they collect tons of it, okay, and distribute it. What's the name of that group? And I can't remember their name right now.
Well, we have our own food rescue program.
Okay.
So we work directly with various groups and organizations, as well as, restaurants and grocery stores where we're doing food rescue and farmers as well. So we do that directly with those partners.
Right. There's but it was stunning to me on how much food was captured that normally would have just gotten thrown away on this. Courtney, you were going to add something?
Well, I was just, Mission Fed considers all of ourselves like extensions of the food bank team sometimes, because we've learned so much. And I'm learning more just even while Julie's talking about this piece of it. We even just with the Food for Kids campaign and all the work that we've done. And I look at my colleague Catalina from across the room here, just even us going through like the food that the kids get in these backpacks that, the food bank delivered to us. And so we can kind of curate everything and get the backpacks ready for the kids. The whole premise too for that, and back to nutrition, right, is like that it has to be nutritious, but it also has to be easy for the kids to do on their own. If, say, the adults aren't home because they're off working and making a living for the family, and, the kiddo might be on their own over, or with just some other siblings or something like that, right? So there's still a lot of easy things that the kids can prepare maybe on their own, or at least just simple, like, nutritious milk that they can open up and add a little bit to a nutritious cereal, and have some applesauce packets and tuna, with crackers and things like that are still nutritious but easy for them to prepare too.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, before we went on break, about, the monies that come from the feds, whatever the case may be, and there's been some cutback on some of these in different areas, education, we know, and health and so forth. Has it affected food at all? To your knowledge?
Yes, it has. We had 25 truckloads this summer that did not come from the USDA because of some of the cuts.
Right.
And we're looking at, what's coming in the future. There's federal cuts that may be reducing the amount of food available and limiting access to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, or CalFresh here in California.
Right.
So with those benefits being reduced for thousands of San Diegans, it creates added pressure on us as the region's largest food safety net. So we will see how that plays out over the next few years, and we're putting things in place to be prepared for those changes. With the 53 million pounds of food I mentioned that we distributed last year, that's the second largest year, second to COVID.
Wow.
So since COVID, the need has not gone down. It's maintained, and we see it starting to tick up a little bit. So depending on what happens in the future, again, more pressure will be on the food bank to provide the nutritious balanced meals that we've been talking about.
Right, but to the point is, this is where you really need to work with your elected officials, whether it's a state Senate and state assembly, whether it's, our congressmen and women. And I know that, the five folks that represent our region, Scott Peters et al. And all that business very much care about the food bank, very much care about this and be good advocates. And I know when people say, well, that doesn't really do any good if you write a letter, I go, it does a lot, and when talk to those folks. So I'd really encourage people, to do that as well. We're chatting with our friends from the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank and Mission Fed Credit Union. Julie Moore, Director of Corporate Partnerships from the Food Bank, joined by Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We're in our 19th year, longest running community podcast in the nation, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. Kristen, do you and your family get involved in any, food drives at all?
Not at the moment, but we would love to. Yeah. Declan, my son, he's going to be 7, and he's very helpful and active. And I think that that's something that he would be all over, especially helping other children. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Right, exactly. So we talked a little bit about this. And if somebody wants to do their own food drive, how do they get that set up?
Yeah. Again, on our website, SanDiegoFoodBank.org, we have a section on food drives. We run community food drives throughout the entire year. So it could be a smaller group, Girl Scout group or church group running a food drive, a neighborhood. And then our 2 largest food drives are the summer and holiday. So we're getting ready. Believe it or not, holidays are around the corner. So holiday food drive will be kicking off soon. But any time of year, and it's our iconic red barrels that we have out in the community. Also on our website, if you look up the food drives that are currently active. So some people want to just drop off food and they ask where they can do that. And we do have on our website the list of all the community food drives that are happening at that moment. So you can go drop off food in the red barrels.
Right. And I think, it doesn't make a difference if you've got, Ed's vacuum shop of 6 people, or you've got, Sempra, whatever the case may be. Anyone can do a food drive, right? And you have customers coming through your door, drop off whatever, those things that you need. I think is really critical. I know you get involved, if I'm not mistaken, with the Postal Service. There's a day where you can, distribute that as well. And I think the takeaway, if anything, is that food insecurity doesn't take a day off. It's here 365, 24, is 7, in that area. What else can we do to support your efforts, Julie?
All right. So we talked about food drives. We talked about donating money.
Yes.
Volunteers we talked about as well, and advocacy. So all those things are what you can do every day, any day. And it's really just also being mindful and being aware that hunger is all around us. So the faces of hunger can be a working family, a military family, a student that's, not getting the enough food at home. So just be aware that your neighbors could be facing some situation where they need help right now, and that's okay. They have a place to go to. They can come to the food bank. Again, as the county's food safety net, we're here at any time for anyone that needs food.
You brought up something, and I think it's stunning. You guys know the numbers on this. The amount of college students that are food insecure is huge. Or bigger than you think it would be. Talk about that.
Well, we, great question. We do have a college hunger relief program. We work with every university and community college in San Diego. They all have food pantries or access for their students to obtain food from them. If you're experiencing food insecurity as a, kindergarten through 12th grader, and you are now starting your college career, you're most likely still facing that food insecurity.
That's right.
The goal, too, is to keep people in school, keep people working so that they can contribute and take care of themselves so they don't rely on the food bank as much in the future. So we'd much rather help them in college stay, fueled by food so they can stay in school and finish school and then get a job and take care of themselves. So yeah, every from UCSD to Palomar Community College, all of them have programs that we're able to support.
Yeah, Kristen, it's just a big number. It's a number that would surprise people. It's sort of, the same thing about the $800,000 a month with food insecurity. So, Courtney, you folks are the poster children, so to speak, if I'm using the right word, for collaboration. Obviously, not just with Food Bank and all these other great things. What would you do to encourage people to get involved in this program?
That's a great question. I think, all the things that Julie's already talked about and just all the importance of it. But I think, there's so many amazing nonprofits throughout San Diego, right? And Mission Fed's lucky to work with a lot of them. But some of the reasoning why, we choose food insecurity as one of our kind of pillars, because it is constant. And unfortunately, it's not going away. To Julie's point, in some cases, it's still growing right now. You think of, the economic, landscape that we're in and things like that, and how many families are truly struggling. This is just that one pivotal piece to help them, like Julie said, stay at work, stay in school, and help, kind of feed their families. So I think, it's a no-brainer. It really is. Every time someone says, hey, like when we want to do a volunteer event, whether it's here at Mission Fed and one of our amazing like employee resource groups that wants to get together, we are always recommending, or it's my kids' cheerleading squad who wants to do something, right? Like we're recommending, hey, like go look at the website for the SanDiegoFoodBank.org and see what opportunities they have available. And it's great to be in their warehouse and just, doing the assembly line of packing food. We've done that. We do that a lot of times with Mission Fed, at least a couple times a year. And we'll be doing one again this September for Food for Kids specifically, where our team gets to pack the boxes that go out to the schools, and that helps, fuel this program every week and keep it going. The last thing I'll mention, though, too, kind of goes back to the federal funding piece of it. And even though, so the Food for Kids backpack program, I don't know if we talked about this, is not federally funded.
Right.
It's only funded by organizations like Mission Fed and anyone else who would like to contribute to that too, and our greater San Diego community and our Mission Fed members during this month, all that kind of stuff. But one thing that we're really excited about at Mission Fed is that we are kind of kicking off the campaign by adding $10,000 to start our campaign. So we're really excited about that. And again, it's maybe a little bit of a smaller amount in the grand scheme of philanthropy these days, but it's something that we know will help, and it kind of helps kickstart this campaign. And so we hope to raise a lot of money for it in September.
No, absolutely. Julie, any final comments?
That's a good point about the Food for Kids backpack program being funded by the food bank. It is not a state or federal funds that come in for that. So it is important. It takes a community to feed a community. And we're appreciative of Mission Fed, and they really do get behind this. It's always fun to see the social media posts and the displays at the branches and hear the stories of when they're asking people to give, and they open up their hearts and their pocketbooks and support us. So
yeah, let's do this next time on. And I don't think we've done this before. We've had you on quite a bit. Why don't we get a school or schools or people that have benefited from the backpack program, a principal or a superintendent, whatever the case may be, that said, hey, this is how successful it was, and this is how many kids benefited from it. Something you can think about for that in the future. How's that sound?
Great idea.
Very good. Well, as always, enjoy the conversation with Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank and our friends from Mission Fed Credit Union, Julie Moore, Director of Corporate Partnerships for the Food Bank, joined by Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades of doing just great stuff in our community. As always, Kristen Fogel, thank you for co-hosting. We're into year 3, I guess, of what you've been doing this, right?
I don't math very well, but we're doing it.
You're a writer, that's it. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.